All right, let's now look at formatting text inside a web page. So that's the focus of this presentation, and we have several elements to help us do it. So let's start with simple things, italic. So italic, as you probably know already, you just do italic to some text, then it will kind of change the angle of the text and make it look a little bit different. So here we have a paragraph, and then inside there a little italic sequence. We also, underneath it, have a paragraph, and then we have an EM sequence. EM. EM means emphasis. Okay, so we've got italic, we've got emphasis. What does it look like? Well, it looks like italic and it looks like italic. They look exactly the same. In fact, they are exactly the same. So this was I/I, italic. This was EM/EM, emphasis. What's the difference? Well, they're both in the they're both in the HTML5 standard, okay? But italic is just when you want the words to look like that. Emphasis is when it's a little bit more important. They look exactly the same, but one, it could be used for random reasons, and one is for, you should note this. It's more important. That's the idea. They look the same though. Okay, that was italic. All right, let's move on to bold. Something similar with bold. We've got a B and a /B. That will give you bold text, thicker text, right? What else do we have? We have strong/strong. Again, they're both part of HTML5. What happens if you look at the result? The result is bold text and bold text. They look exactly the same. It's really the same idea as what we just looked at with italic, okay? Bold, for random reasons, you might want that text to be thicker and stand out more using bold. But for strong, it's got a little bit more semantic difference. It's trying to say, pay attention. This is an important message. That's the idea. It doesn't look different on the screen, but it looks different when you look at the source code, especially if you were google.com doing a search engine, something like that. That will be more important than that because it will look at the source code. Anyway, two ways to do bold. Let's move on. Underline. So the first thing about underline is don't use it. Okay, it's just too confusing. Over the last 25 years, people used it for different reasons, and people often think, oh, it's got a line under it. It's a link. They try to click on it. It's not a link at all. It's just got a line under it. Very confusing. So personally, I try to never, ever, ever use underline. Okay, if you insist on using underline, well, then this is how you would do it. You would do a U at the start, /U at the end, and that will give you a line under it. If you do use it, you're supposed to use it only in an appropriate situation. So here's underline, where really these days you shouldn't do that. Okay, it just kind of looks confusing. Is that a link? Should I click on this? I don't know, unless I try it. Okay, so I wouldn't do that personally. But if you look at the HTML5 specification, it says, yeah, there's some situations where it might be okay. For example, a Chinese name, perhaps you underline the surname because the surname goes first, unlike the Western system where the surname goes last. Okay, that is a reasonable use of underline. But even there, people may think, wait, is that a link? And they try to click on it. So again, personally, I would avoid underline if possible. Okay, let's move on. What else can we do? Big and small. You can guess what they do. Big/big is going to make this text bigger than the text around it. Okay. What else? We've got small/small. That text is going to be smaller than the text around it, which is this text. Okay. What does it look like? Looks like this. Okay. It's dangerous to use big. Now, it may be hard for you to see it, but that word is actually a little bit bigger than the words on the left and the right. Okay. It is bigger. And what about here? Smaller. And again, might be a little bit hard for you to see on the video, but those three words are smaller. Okay? Very simple. Big, small. Some things you've got to keep in mind. Although it works right now in this browser, because this is a browser, actually, big is not part of HTML5. It is not. Okay, I'm lucky it works because, you know, luckily we tried it out this year, this browser. It works. However, next year, may not work. It's not part of modern HTML5 standard. So dangerous to use it. Maybe 3 years later, I have a big, somebody looks at my web page, totally fails. Maybe it doesn't show anything because it doesn't know what big is. So dangerous to put that in your system, but you could if you like. What's the alternative? The alternative is something we'll look at later called span and a style rule, but we're not going to look at that here. So there's our big, there's our small. Let's move on. Highlighting text, mark. Mark, you say mark/mark, whatever's in the middle comes up as one of those yellow marker pens, right? You know, you buy them and you go shh, and then it shows it in a kind of nice thick yellow background. Might be useful for some particular reason. What else do we have? Sub and sup, all right? Definitely useful sooner or later, sub and sup. Sub moves the text down, subscript. Sup with a P moves the text up, superscript, all right? So let me show an example of that. So here's an example. This is a little bit of maths, okay? Now the only way I can kind of get the 1 to move down and the 2 to move down, the 2 to move up, the 3 to move up is using sub and sup, right? That's how I've done it here. I have to say, although it works, here's the code, right? Sub 1, that will move my 1 down next to the X. And then over here, sup, over here, 3 is going to go up, superscript, sup/sup, moves it up. And over here, sup/sup, 2, that's going to get moved up. So sub, move down, sup, moves up. It works, right? It looks like this. Yeah, I can get some down, down, up, up. I can do some simple maths. However, much better is to use the proper maths language, mathml, which we're not going to look at, okay? Mathml will do a much better version. It will make this 1 smaller, because it's supposed to be smaller. It'll make the 2 smaller. It'll make the squared smaller. Properly doing maths, you would use mathsml. Anyway, it's a nice example of sub and sup, okay? More realistic is this kind of example. You have some text, and then you use it as a footnote, all right? Now, again, there's kind of other ways to do this, but simple way to get things working. Again, you would have a superscript for your 1, and then over here, superscript 1, and then you have your reference. That's a bit better, a bit more comfortable use of superscript than maths, which doesn't work quite so well. Visually, it works, but it's not as good as it could be. All right, anyway, that is sub and sup. There's our sub, and there's our sup. What else do we have? Well, there's a couple of things which personally I haven't really found a strong use for. Inserted text and deleted text. Ins and del. So the idea is that maybe you share documents through a web page and you want to show that somebody else has deleted something or somebody else has added something, like you're sharing the document. All right, so insert/insert, the word truly has been inserted. That is the message you're showing in the browser. And also del/del, this word has been deleted. That's the message you're showing in the browser. Looks like this. There's my inserted word. It uses a line to show that it's been inserted, and this word has been deleted. Puts a line right through it. It's really for editors. It's just for editors to show what they're doing in a web page. Okay, that's our quick introduction to some of the things you can do with text in HTML5.